Hi, this is John Caracciolo. I'm the President and Chief Executive Officer of JVC Broadcasting and Long Island Events. I just had the pleasure of being interviewed by Keith Andrew, and I got to tell you, I enjoyed it very much. It was one of my favorite interviews because what we did was talk about the business that I love so much with a man that loves the business so much. So I would recommend an interview with Keith Andrew. It will make you feel good.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Keith Andrew, and you're watching the Keith Andrew Network. Today, we have a very special guest. He's the president and CEO of his own company. I'd like to introduce you to John Caracciolo. Thank you for being a guest on my talk show.
Thank you for having me, Keith. I look forward to the conversation today.
No, absolutely. It's an honor and privilege to have you as a guest. For people who want to...
It's an honor and privilege to be a guest. I'm usually not on this side of the microphone, so I enjoy it very much.
No, absolutely. For people who want to know what my talk show is about, the whole point of my talk show is to show people that even with having a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities, to never give up and prove people wrong. Prove to them that labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be. It's prove to them against them out to something. So that being said, a half hour of your time, PG-13, you have the right to say whatever you want, and it's uncensored. But that being said, there's a couple of things on your resume I would love to talk to you about.
Sure.
Now, number one, you are a CEO of JVC Broadcasting, and you also have your own radio station on Long Island as well.
Yes, JVC Broadcasting is made up of 13 radio stations, 5 on Long Island and the remaining ones in Florida. We are in Gainesville, we're in Ocala, and we're in Orlando, Florida. And we started the company with the radio stations on Long Island.
No, absolutely. Now, let me ask you this. Who influenced you to start your own company?
You know, I worked in radio right out of college, and it was a very exciting. I got the bug, the radio bug, and it became very exciting. And I went to work for a couple of radio stations, and I was with the last company for 22 years. And when the gentleman that owned it was selling it, he was going to retire. I had the opportunity to buy the last 2 that he had on Long Island. And I never thought about owning my own radio company. I always thought it was a little out of reach. But as you said in your show opening, if you try and nothing is out of reach. Nothing should prohibit you from doing something. So I, made a lot of sales calls to a lot of banks to try to get a loan. And ultimately I did. And I got the first 2 radio stations in 2009 was when I formed the company, 2009. And we just had, it was also forming a company at the time of the country was coming off a really big depression. And it was not a great time to start a company, but we were small, we were lean. We were not the big corporate giants that were gobbling up the industry and not doing local programming and serving their communities. And we really hit it off because I put together a great team that had been with me, that we had worked together for a long time at the other company. So it wasn't a dream of mine to start my own company, but it's something I fell into, I think, by accident, but I'm very happy that I did.
Now, the first question I want to ask you, are you born and raised from Long Island?
Yes, I was born and raised on Long Island, so I know the island well, which definitely gives me an advantage as a radio owner. I mean, I know a lot of people on Long Island, a lot of politicians, a lot of, through the years working in the industry on Long Island, it gave me the opportunity to join a lot of Chamber of Commerce's, join a lot of business groups, do a lot of networking. So it was definitely, Keith, an advantage that I had, that I grew up and I started the company in my hometown.
No, absolutely. Hey, maybe you would like to work together.
Absolutely.
Now, were you on the north side or south side of Long Island?
I right now, I grew up in Nassau County, which was closer to the city. And then I moved to Levittown, and then I moved to Huntington. And then when we got the stations in Florida, I was going back and forth so much that I bought a little place in Florida and a little place here. And now I'm out in Suffolk County towards the middle of the island, and I go back and forth a lot to Florida and New York.
No, absolutely. My parents used to live in Massapequa, and
Oh, wow.
and my grandparents used to live in Seaford.
They were just talking about Massapequa on the radio, because I was listening to Brian Kilmeade, the Fox host, and he lives in Massapequa. So he was just talking about what he was going to do this Labor Day weekend in Massapequa.
It's funny you should mention that. With the whole coronavirus going around, what is your opinion and what is some of your words of recommendation? People say, not to talk about politics. You can talk about whatever you like. But, the numbers are going to spike. Like I said, freedom of speech, self-expression, the shit's got to hit the fan, after this weekend. So it's kind of like, you have people who want to play it smart. But, okay, I know it's the summer. You want to go out, enjoy yourself. But with everything going on, you really just have to be smart about it.
I agree. There's this level of risk that I think every individual chooses to take. I get in my car and I put my seatbelt on. I know some people that get in their car and don't. I don't want to end up through the windshield, so I don't want to take that risk, so I put my seatbelt on. There are some people that go skydiving. I don't find any reason to jump out of a good plane, so I'm not taking that risk. But, there are some people that do want to go out and do so in a safe way. And I think if they're safe and they follow the rules that the CDC gives you, they should be allowed to do so. When you're out and you're not following the rules and you're putting other people in danger, then it's not your choice anymore. I think if you put other people in danger, then you have to be regulated and your situation has to be, looked at. But I think everybody takes the risk that they're comfortable taking. I had to make some tough decisions when the coronavirus hit with our company. Do I allow people in the office? Do I, allow meetings? How do I handle? Radio is a very personal business. I talk to you, you talk to me. Our listeners depend on us. Radio stations were always out doing live broadcasts and remotes. They were always out visiting clients. So it's a very personal business. And to take the personality and the personal touch out of radio was very hard for us to do. So I had to make some decisions when New York, the curve came down, and when it seemed like the governor and the CDC had the virus under control. Can I bring people back to the office wearing masks, socially distancing, still doing some meetings virtually, but weaning into some point of normalcy once again? So that's what we're trying to do. It took a long time. In March, we made the cut and nobody was in the office. Everybody was working remotely, doing shows like you're doing now on Zoom and, piping that right to the transmitter sites. We were very lucky that I had a plan in place because Long Island and Florida are always hit by hurricanes that, just wipe us out. So I had a very robust remote broadcast plan in place already for hurricanes that with the flip of the switch, disc jockeys could work out of the house. They could go to the transmitter sites. We could feed the transmitter sites directly. So we put that into place. And starting August 15th, of last month, we are now rolling back some of those rules. So I do have some people in the office. Salespeople are still, as they come and go, but the traffic people are back. The sales assistants are back. The jocks are back doing their shows live and local. And we do an office cleaning once a month, and we're very respectful of everybody's distance, but we have to get back to some type of normal. So that's what we're trying to do.
No, I agree with you 100%. And unfortunately, with the oceans rising, the people always joke, Long Island's going to disappear in a couple hundred years, 1,000 years. Tornadoes now becoming a big thing, where it's crazy, But
it's crazy.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say it's crazy, but that's why preparation is the key right now. I think in this environment, in this world that we're living on, you have to be prepared, as you said, for tornadoes, for hurricanes, for rising floodwaters. We had a windstorm whip through here about 3 or 4 weeks ago. That was crazy. I mean, it was crazy. Towers were falling down, antennas are flying off roofs. So we got to be prepared for anything, Keith. You're right.
And it's really scary. If you look back 10 years ago, 20 years ago, someone say, oh, Long Island got hit by a tornado. Or for me, I live in the Catskills. So for me, Long Island's about 3 hours away. So like from near New Jersey, it's unheard of to hear you get hit by a tornado. But with global changes, it's becoming more and more frequent. I guess, unfortunately to say, this is the new normal.
Yeah, that's unfortunate to say. It's funny you say you grew up, you're in the Catskills. I spent a lot of my childhood in Sullivan County, at Swan Lake. And I think one of my first loves of radio when I fell in love with the business was WSUL on Broadway in Monticello. And they used to have a studio right in the window, and you could walk by and just look at the disc jockey playing the records. And I was hooked from that. So that was my first radio station.
Well, it's funny you should bring that up. Have you ever been to Woodbury Commons?
Oh, all the time. Yeah, I stopped there quite often on the way back. I think that was exit 16, Harriman, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, once the quarantine stops hitting the fan, maybe we can get lunch or something.
I would enjoy that. I do travel back up. A good friend of mine, Bud Williamson, owns some stations in Middletown. I think Wall, and he has a couple others. So I do go up and visit him quite often. So I would do that.
No, absolutely. And now the next one I want to ask you, I found this really interesting, is you work on Long Island events. Does that consider or count as Jones Beach or Westbury? Have you ever worked with those two?
We have worked with Jones Beach Theater and the Westbury Theater. We formed Long Island Events in 2010 as a non-traditional revenue company for the radio, a separate company that controls a venue. We lease a 7,000-seat outdoor venue in Brookhaven. It's an outdoor amphitheater. And we use the power of the radio stations for sponsorship sales. But Long Island Events is its own company, and we have our own people that book bands. And I'm proud to say we've had bands like Darius Rucker, the band Perry, the Counting Crows. I mean, we do some pretty big national level shows. And we use our radio stations when we can, if the format fits. But if we do a rock show, we've done Leonard Skinner, we've done ZZ Top. And if we do that, we go into concert mode production, and we'll buy advertising time with WBAB or Q104 in the city. And we, it's a separate concert event company that we'll use our stations when we can, but, when we have to go otherwhere, it's just a separate company. Unfortunately, that company was hit tremendously hard by the pandemic because concerts just can't happen anymore. So we're waiting for that company to come back. We canceled, we had a lineup of about 20 national shows for this summer. We canceled every one. We were working with Live Nation on putting some pretty big acts in. We canceled all of them, and we're rebooking for 2021. Hopefully, the world will be spinning in the right direction, and concerts will be allowed to happen.
Well, hopefully, it's the rumor going around. It's supposed to be November with the vaccines. Now they're saying January. hopefully by next spring, it's moving in the right direction. Because
I
for
hope
me,
so.
oh, go ahead.
I hope so. I agree with you. I hope so.
For me, I'm not doing anything until there's a vaccine. Once I'm, vaccinated, I can do whatever the hell I want. But until then, you
Right.
have to play it safe.
I agree.
But the next thing I want to ask you, or the theme about the show, is people with disabilities. And not to put you on the spot or anything, would you be interested in working with me, number one? And also, have you ever hired people with disabilities to work for your company?
We had a show on our news talk radio station, Long Island News Radio, called Disabilities, or it was uh, Disabilities Foundation. It was something. It specifically dealt with people with disabilities and how they are leading a normal life and how they have a harder time to take advantage of opportunities, but it gets it done and it makes them stronger people. It was a great show. It was a great show. The gentleman that did the show moved out of state and he couldn't do it anymore. But we would definitely look at a show like that again, because we didn't have this technology back then where, you had to come to the studio or you had to, do it in your home studio. We would definitely look at another show like that. I think that's a great a point of interest for a lot of people, and it serves a need and it serves our community as well. So yes, I would definitely look at that.
No, absolutely.
And they had some very good sponsors too, my friend.
What type of sponsors do they have?
And some insurance companies, some local banks, St. Joseph's College. I mean, he had a really good list of sponsors for the show.
No, that's really cool.
I can't remember the name. I'm gonna look back when we're done, and I'll email you the name of the show and see if I have any information on it. But it was a good show. We enjoyed it.
There is a guy that you might be interested in while we're on the subject. He works he doesn't really work there. He more as volunteers at the Manhattan Neighborhood of Broadcasting. It's John Truitt. It's called Disabilities Redefined.
I haven't heard of the show. I will look it up, though.
No, definitely go check it out. It's on my website if everyone wants to go to KeithAndrewNetWork.com, and that's the episode I was actually first interviewed on public broadcasting.
Oh, wow. I will look at it. Thank you.
No, absolutely. The next one I was going to ask is, how would you feel about having a wrestling-based talk show on your station?
We had a show that was wrestling based, again, very popular. It was part of a segment from a sports entertainment show we had on the talk station. Wrestling is huge on Long Island at the high school and the college level. And this show was a segment on the sports show, and it did very well. So we are actually looking to bring back a sports show again. So I would look to do a segment. I would start the wrestling show with a segment again, try to get some dollars and some sponsors behind it, and then see if it could grow and morph into its own freestanding program.
Hey, if you're interested, I have a couple friends in mind that would be great for it.
I would love to if they could do a 15-minute demo, with it and send it to me. I'd love to see if I could stick it into this sports show.
No, absolutely. Now, do you mean just playing high school and college wrestling, or you mean like WWE, AEW?
We do a show in Florida on our Orlando station, and it's a national show, but we have it locally, and they have big wrestling stars in often, and it's very well received. So I think wrestling is a huge sport, and it doesn't have the outlets that baseball, football, the big sports have. But yeah, I would think that a show like that would be of interest at a higher level with the professionals and the college and high school, because high school wrestling is so big on Long Island.
No, absolutely. Now, the next one I want to ask you, I asked you this off the air, and when we were talking, social media. Do you think with everything that you accomplish, can social media make you or break you? Do you think with everything you accomplish, Do you think Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or do you think it's more of a in-person presence that helps?
I will always be a huge proponent of an in-person presence. There's nothing that can get done better when you look at somebody in the eye, you shake their hand, and you make a deal with them, and they become your partner. Social media has its place in society, but it's also become overrun with false information, fake news, and negative, opinion. And I just don't think that's good for anybody. And it's definitely not good to help you build a brand. We use social media very carefully here. We're not opinion based. We're not, there's no negativity, and it's used to promote or explain some of the events that we're doing or some of the things the radio stations are doing. And it's also used as a form of two-way communication between the disc jockey and his audience. I mean, it's remember back in the days when I started in radio, in the studio, there's a big phone bank and all the lights were flashing, and that's how you communicated with the audience. Social media really made radio two-way communication, because now instantly on our talk station, the news station, when there's a story going up, you could see people commenting on social media. Now the host can, use those comments. He could choose to not use them. He could, get information from them. And it has its place in society, but I think to replace, this, and never do it. Never in my world. I won't have it. I won't have it. Even with our salespeople, sometimes, you get a younger salesperson, and I would say, did you go talk to your client? Did you bring your prospect? I texted him. I did this. No, that doesn't count. When I get a birthday card in the mail or I get a present in the mail, I write a handwritten note. I don't even do an email. When I get a nice order from a client, I write a handwritten note, because that means that you took the time. I know Keith took the time to write me a note, and it means something, rather than doing a quick email, doing a text, or, doing a emoji or something. So no, I am not a big social media proponent.
No, I understand completely. For me, I interviewed my friend yesterday for a second time. And down the road, we will definitely do a follow-up for part 2 of our interview. And she's like, oh, you can be on my show, but it's a phone interview on mine. Okay, I'm not going to turn it down. But to be honest, I'm not really a phone person. I hate talking on phone, because I'm like, well, really feels I'm talking to myself. But for this, you get to see who you're talking to. You get to feel the energy. When you go through like the meet and greets and Comic-Cons, you get to, shake the person's hand, and it's more formal. Just talking on the phone, it's kind of like, yes, you hear the person, but you can't pick up the energy and the vibe. You know what I mean? It's just more informal than to sit down with the person and talk face to face.
I know exactly what you mean, and I'll take it one step further now. And look, there are things that we have to do in this pandemic to protect each other. And this is one of them. I would have rather been in your studio, sitting down with you and having a conversation in your studio. That's what I would rather do. But this is a way of life right now. It's also, you talk about how you lose the interpersonal level of communication when you're on the phone. But now, too, when you're wearing a mask and you're out and you're wearing a mask, and I can't tell if you're smiling, you're laughing, you're mad at me, you think I'm an ass. I mean, I can't tell. So I like to see facial expression. I like to look people in the eyes when I speak to them. And it's just me. I've been in the communication business my whole life, and I think communication and interpersonal communication is so important.
It's funny. This reminds me of something about making faces. And this is going to sound like an oxymoron, but you saw Spaceballs, right?
I love that. One of my favorite movies.
And remember where the guy says, never have that thing down in front of me. I don't know if you're making faces at me.
Yeah. I love that movie. It was great.
But with the last 4 minutes counted, I'm going to pass the show over to you. Was there anything you wanted to talk about? Anything you want to promote? This is your time. You can ask me anything you want. I have no cards up my sleeve.
So how long have you been doing the show?
7.5 years.
And how do you promote it? Do you use social media and your websites to promote it?
Yep, my main website, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest. If it's popular, I'm on there.
What did you do before, like Zoom when you were doing the show? You just did audio recordings and uploaded the audio recordings, or did you always have video involved?
Well, it's kind of funny you should mention that. I would, if you really want to draw me up the wall, you were supposed to originally be 1,000, or somewhere in the thousands. When I first started, unless I had $1 for every time I said this, I did 72 phone interviews. I got people like Barbara Goodson, Ron Reisman, God rest his soul, on Kerrigan Mayhem. For people who don't know who those are people from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And I wasn't, getting any numbers, and I was still having panic attacks and social anxieties because I got sick in 2007. And the concept of the show is to show people's disabilities, look at what I can accomplish. So I did 72 phone interviews, and people are like, oh, you're doing a great thing. Well, why don't you have people sponsoring you? Why are you not having people helping you? It's like, I don't know. Well, apparently you're not doing something right, and try something else. So someone said to me, do your format over, but try video. I got up to 300. And people would say, my grandfather said to me, when you give someone your word is your bond. That's it. You give someone your word, you got to stand by it. So I said, okay, I will take people at their word. Unfortunately, people would come back and say, yeah, my agent said, my publicist said, you ask a lot of stupid questions. We don't want to be seen with people like you. You're really degrading. I'm not getting any acting careers. You're hurting my career. We're going to sue you. So 300, I took it down. I interviewed a lawyer. He said, the biggest thing is you have not had people sign permission forms. So now, and like you did, 719 people, or 720 people, who signed permission forms. I have 20 of it, 20. I have 7 of these filled with permission forms. And now I'm like, okay, if you change your mind in 30 days, you want me to re-edit it, you want me to take it down, you want to redo it, that's fine. After 30 days, it's done, it's a done deal, it's notarized. So I should have done this from the start, and I also should have been too damn bad for those people who I originally interviewed, instead of saying, well, I really don't know if they're really going to sue me or not. And my parents are like, sue you for what? You're not rich, you're not famous, you're a nobody, and they're just saying that to scare you. Now I have a lawyer friend who says anyone tries that, BS, point in my direction, and I will straighten them out for you.
That's good. You know what the permission form does too, Keith? It makes you more legitimate. You're a real company that's doing a real interview, and you're doing it the right way. So congratulations.
No, absolutely. And it's funny you should say that, because other people say to me, I get asked to do podcasts all the time, and they never once asked me to sign a permission form.
Right. You're a legit guy. So there's a legit reason to do it. So congratulations on that. You found it was a hard road to get there, but your lawyer friend guided you correctly.
Yep, absolutely. I do have a couple questions for you off the air. But my last question for you is, when I first approached you to be a guest on my talk show, what was your honest first opinion? What did you think, and what made you say yes?
The first time when you approached me, we were just starting to get through the pandemic. I think it was just hitting. And I had a lot of requests from like Radio Inc. and Inside Radio and the local business news about how we were surviving. And I was really getting to the point of, it's like you talk about like a bad thing so many times, and it's like, I just don't want to talk about it anymore, So when I looked at your website and I found that it wasn't, geared at, just the pandemic. What is your company doing to survive? I didn't want to give that answer anymore. So when I looked at your website, I said, all right, this seems like something that would be fun. I get to talk about a business that I love with a person that obviously loves the business. So that's what I thought.
No, absolutely. I do have a couple questions for you off the air. But wrapping up our interview segment, it was a real honor and privilege having you as a guest. And I'm looking forward to part 2 down the road.
Hi, guys. My name is Kat Johnston.
This is Donna Drake.
This is Kayleen.
Hi, my name is Kara Svuchek.
I'm Julia Brothers.
Jenna Curtis.
Hey, I'm Jenny Fon.
Hi, it's Mimi Chin.
Hi, my name is Ella Dorsch.
My name is Shauna Toft.
Hey guys, I'm Anastasia Edwards.
Hi, this is Jackie Nunez.
Actress Becky Hayes.
Hi, I'm Amelia Rose.
Hey there, I'm Saki Mieta.
Hi guys, I'm Alexandria Denise, and you're watching Keith Andrews' show.